Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy Nick here, back again with a brand new video today. We're going to be continuing my series which I review every single Marvel Cinematic Universe film up to the release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Today we're going to be reviewing Thor: Love and Thunder, which is the 6th film in Phase 4. So this is actually the final episode of this series. I already reviewed Black Panther: Wakanda Forever back when that came out. And so today is the last day in the series. We're going to review Thor: Love and Thunder, which I'm excited to talk about. And in the next video, we're going to be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I had the privilege of seeing this past weekend. Can't wait to talk about that. But without further ado, let's get into this review. So Thor: Love and Thunder was directed by Taika Waititi, who previously directed Thor: Ragnarok. And of course, we have our returning frontman of Chris Hemsworth as Thor. This is an interesting one because I do think he is very good in this movie. So there's some moments where Thor is a bit strange, but I'll talk about that more later. However, I still think Chris Hemsworth gives a good performance as the character. I mean, you can't really go wrong with him as Thor. For the first time since Thor: The Dark World, Natalie Portman returns as Jane Foster. And that was really interesting to see that they brought her back for this one. She actually gives a great performance in this movie, and she's given a lot more to do considering that she's the mighty Thor in this movie. And there's some more on her that I'll touch later, but yeah, she actually has given a lot more to do. And something that I appreciate about her is that they actually made her more vulnerable in this one and more interesting in this one, because in the previous one, she was kind of just like a nice little side addition, and then in this one, she actually has a lot more to do with the story in this one. I mean, she always had to do with the story, like especially in the first one, but I don't know, this one they made her a lot more interesting and made her a lot more central, and I just think it was cool that they did that, and Portman's performance is really good. I also think that she gets along really well with Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. Valkyrie didn't get as much screen time as I hoped she would. However, the two of them together, I thought they were a really good team. One of the other things I really appreciate about Jane in this movie is that they actually explained the relationship between Thor and Jane further than they did in the first two movies. In the first two, it was kind of just like, oh yeah, they like each other. But in this one, they actually show the relationship they had through a brief sequence, and they actually show like the complications with it. And I appreciate that they did that, because that was something that I felt that they left out of the other movies that really needed to be there. Taika Waititi, who's the director of the movie, also voices Korg like he did in the first one, and Korg's given more to do, and Korg's a lot of fun. He's not really the most interesting character, but he's fun when he's there, and Taika Waititi voices him really well, and I just like seeing Korg there. I also really liked Russell Crowe as Zeus. Now, his Zeus is not really a serious Zeus, it's more funny, but Russell Crowe actually delivers the comedy pretty well, in my opinion. That was a fun sequence that they had in the middle of the movie. And also Christian Bale, I think he might honestly be the best part of this movie. He is amazingly creepy as Gore the God Butcher. And there's some more, I'll talk about him later, but like they actually give him a nice backstory, and Bale's performance is amazingly creepy. Like he felt like there was actual stakes whenever he was there. This movie also has some beautiful visuals and CGI. And I was watching this the other day on Disney Plus with an IMAX enhanced feature, and like it's really a great experience, especially within like that amazing picture quality. And I think that the design team did a great job with it, and like you could tell from like what Waititi did in Ragnarok into what he did here, he very clearly has a huge thing for like amazing visuals, and I think that they pulled it off really well. There's also a whole scene in this movie, which I won't go too deep into, where there's a whole bunch of scenes that are filmed in black and white, and I think that those scenes might actually, they look gorgeous. I think that those might actually be some of the best looking scenes in the movie whenever they film the sequences in black and white. I thought they did a really amazing job with that, and at first I was kind of skeptical about it, but then I saw what they were going for with black and white, and I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool. This movie is also very easygoing. It's very funny, and it's got a lot of great humor in it. There's more. I'm going to touch on the humor later, but it was a fun movie all around. It's kind of just a very easygoing movie that you can just kind of throw on and watch at any time. And even though it wasn't necessarily all too serious of a movie, it had serious moments when it needed to be, and I appreciated that considering it did deal with some dark things. And I know that some people like to critique the humor of this movie, and I'll touch about that more later because I can kind of understand, but the thing with like they actually are dealing with some dark stuff, and it's stuff that like maybe had they not thrown some humor into it, it would have felt really, really dark, kind of like in Thor: The Dark World. And so I don't necessarily mind the humor, as it kind of does take your mind off of a lot of the dark things they handle in this movie. This movie also has a killer soundtrack with some Guns N' Roses music. That was a lot of fun. I remember when we heard Immigrant Song from Led Zeppelin, the first one. That was cool, but in this one they actually have like multiple Guns N' Roses song, and Guns N' Roses is an awesome band, so it was really cool to hear their music in it. I feel like their music fits Thor's personality really well. And this is just a thing personally for me. I know this won't be for everyone. I actually found the Screaming Goats kind of funny. Was it ridiculous? Yeah. Did it really add a whole lot to the story? Not really, but I don't know. I just thought it was funny that they actually threw that in there. I don't know. It's just, to me personally, I found it fun. Now I'm gonna go over some of the flaws in this movie because there are a few. I wrote that the humor is an acquired taste, and I wrote that I personally dug it, but not everyone will. And that seems to be like the big thing with this movie, is that a lot of people really are not a fan of the humor at all. And like, if that's not your thing, that's fine. I know there are some people who didn't care for Ragnarok who saw this and were just like, oh no, what are they doing? And I know there's also some people who really loved Ragnarok who didn't like Love and Thunder because it didn't have the same kind of feel to it. And I kind of understand that because it is a little bit like Ragnarok, but much more on the comedy side than the serious side. And, you know, yeah, like this movie, like the jokes are not going to be for everyone. The humor's an acquired taste. Like there's going to be certain audiences that the humor's that is going to appeal towards, and I'm very clearly part of that audience. And then there's a whole other section of people who aren't going to appreciate that. And if the humor in this movie isn't your thing, I mean, I can understand that. But for me personally, it didn't bother me. But I can understand why it wouldn't be some people's cup of tea. And even though I like the humor, I have listed underneath it that not every joke lands, although I did enjoy most of them. Like, most of the jokes I thought were funny. I mean, I never thought this movie was going to be all that serious, judging by the jokes in Ragnarok and judging by the trailer. And because Thor's always been funny to a certain extent, you know? And so, for me, the jokes were fine, but there's a couple jokes that didn't technically work out for me. The standout one for me was Eat My Hammer, which was the... If you guys saw the movie, you know exactly what that is. And, like, I mean, I kind of appreciate the moment of it, and, like, I kind of chuckled at it, but at the same time, I was like, that doesn't entirely stick the landing for me. Not necessarily a bad joke, it just wasn't my... That joke in specific wasn't my thing, but that's just one joke out of the multiple that I thought were fine, at least. Yeah, I know that a lot of people are gonna talk about this. I talk about how I love the CGI in this movie, and I do. There's one CGI thing that I don't like, and I don't like the fact that they changed the CGI for Astrid. And I know that a lot of people criticized the way it looked, like the original one looked. Whenever I went and saw it in theaters, the original one looked fine to me. I mean, is it CGI? Yeah, but, like, it didn't take me out of it. I thought it looked fine. And I know that there was that photo that was floating around where someone took a photo of it in the theater, and people were like, huh, look how bad the CGI is. If you actually saw it in the theater, like, at least for me, it looked okay, but then the fact that they went and changed it for Disney Plus, that was where they screwed up, because they actually ended up making it look worse, and they actually made it to where it's like, it took me out of the movie. It's like, it's a thing where it's like, had Disney just not listened to people and just left it as is, then I feel like when the movie came out on streaming, people would have been like, oh, it doesn't look that bad, it just looked weird in that photo, but, yeah, that was one thing that I didn't appreciate about it. I also wrote that I felt that Gore was underutilized in this film. I mean, Gore the God Butcher was an interesting villain. Like I said, Bale's performance was awesome. But I would have liked to have seen more of Gore. I mean, they do give us some stuff to do with him. We do see his backstory, which is good. And the moments that he's there is creepy. And technically, everything he does makes sense. I just don't really feel like we have to spend enough time with him. And which is kind of a shame because he's just an awesome villain. I would have liked to have seen him more. And I also write that I do think this is a good Taika Waititi film, but I don't think this is as good as Thor Ragnarok. Then that's just a thing. For me, Thor Ragnarok is like top tier Thor. And this one to me is kind of like... to me, this one's a little bit like interchangeable with the first Thor, though I think I like the first Thor slightly more than this one. And then this one is a lot better than Thor the Dark World in my opinion. And so it's not a perfect movie, but I still enjoy it nonetheless. I think it's a good Taika Waititi film at most. I also wrote there's a few moments where Thor acts kind of out of character. And I wrote that we don't get to see him as smart as we have seen him in the past. Because in the past, we've seen that Thor might be a little bit obnoxious at first, but he is actually really smart. And in this one, I wouldn't say that Thor's dumb, but there's some moments where Thor acts kind of out of character. Like whenever he blows through the thing in New Asgard, for me, I was like, that doesn't seem like something Thor would do. And I know that Thor smashed the mug in the first Thor movie, but that made sense because he was new to Earth and didn't know their customs. So that they actually blew a hole through the roof in a place where his home people live felt kind of out of character. I mean, there's a couple moments where Thor does some stuff where I'm like, okay, like I kind of see what they were going for, but it doesn't necessarily seem all too much like something Thor would do now. Maybe something Thor would do back in the day, but I don't know. I mean, it's not so much to the point that it bothers me, but it's just a thing where there's a few moments where I'm like, I would have liked to had he maybe done this differently. And then the last flaw I have is that we didn't see as much of the Asgardians of the Galaxy as I wanted to. I am pumped over for Guardians 3. I can't wait for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to come out, because I thought we were going to see them team up with Thor, and we did kind of near the beginning. We didn't get to see them a lot, which made me a little bit upset, but hey, it is what it is. I am going to go through a spoiler section real quickly. I'm not going to spend too much time in these, and if you guys don't want to see the spoilers and just want to go straight to my rating and grade, I have a chapter to which you can go, so you can go ahead and already do that. The first major spoiler of the movie is I have that Jane's death happened, but also something I wrote about it was that I felt like it was more heartfelt, in my opinion, than people give it credit for. I put that the movie may have been jokey, and it was, but they cut out the jokes when dealing with the cancer, which is something that I appreciate. And even though I know a lot of people didn't really care for it, I actually kind of felt for her because Natalie Portman's performance was really good. She made Jane vulnerable, so I actually felt kind of sorry for her. And so even though I know that there's a lot of jokes in the movie, because they didn't joke during the cancer stuff, and because of the good performance, it kind of redeemed that quality of it for me. Something else I appreciate about that was I liked the use of makeup in the movie and how they kind of used like the prosthetics to make her look more weak and more vulnerable. They actually went out of their way to make her look like a sick person. I actually kind of appreciate that because it actually kind of like just enhances the feel of it. And I thought that this stuff was handled pretty well, even though it was in a very jokey movie. I also thought that it was cool to see Sif again. I hope that we get to see Sif more whenever Thor returns, whenever that is. Because she's got some stuff to do now that she's training kids in New Asgard. And so, I know Sif was kind of cool in the first two movies, and I just wanted to see more of her here. But I do feel like maybe we will see more Sif in the future, I'm hoping, because she is pretty cool. And I also wrote her poor arm, because her arm got cut off. I feel kind of bad for there. But hopefully we get to see some cool stuff with Sif in the future. I also wrote that I hope to see more Valkyrie in the future, because I feel like she's been given a lot of potential, because she's the new king of Asgard, as we saw in Endgame. And she has some cool moments in the movie, but I felt like maybe she could have been given some more time. I don't know, I just hope we see her some more in the future. And I also wrote that it was fun to see Darcy moment with Jane. It's kind of cool to see that those two characters are still remembered, even though like we moved past them a long time ago. I wrote that the Zeus scene was a lot of fun. There's some things in it that I thought were interesting. The fact that they actually used comedy butt was kind of interesting to me. The fact that his butt actually came out, I was like, I couldn't believe they actually did that in theaters. However, it is comedy butt, so I kind of get why Disney let it pass, but I was actually surprised they did that. But something that I thought was funny was because I also wrote down, so did the cloak, because there's the part where like it blows off and everybody faints, and then what I was funny is that whenever the cloak comes back on, they're all upset. I don't know, for me I found that funny. But something really cool I liked about that scene though is I like the fact that they actually showed the tattoos on Thor's back in honor of Loki, and I think also Heimdall and Odin. I don't know, it's cool to see that Thor actually like cares about his gone family still, and I just thought that was a cool little thing they threw in there, because it showed that like this was more than just a comedy scene. Thor still has some like important stuff that means a lot to him. I also thought the mid-credit scene with Hercules seems exciting. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that, but I'm excited for that. And then I really, really liked the post-credit scene. I thought it was really sweet where we got to see Jane arrive in Valhalla. You know, because her death was sad to me, but it's cool to see that she's like in a peaceful place now. I just thought that was really cool. So before I go into my rating and my grade, I'm just going to read the summary that I have listed here, where it says, this movie is definitely not everyone's cup of tea, but I personally enjoyed it. And I wrote that I wasn't expecting it to be serious based on how Ragnarok was, so I think I enjoyed it based on that. I was definitely the target audience, maybe others weren't. And then after that I wrote, in the end I had a lot of fun with Thor Love and Thunder, and I'm not going to apologize for that. It's not perfect, but I enjoyed it, and that's all that matters. I certainly don't think this movie is as bad as others make it out to be. But I can understand why some people may not have liked it, because it's all about personal taste, in my opinion, at the end. So in the end, I enjoyed Thor Love and Thunder. It's not a perfect movie, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. I'm going to give it an overall rating of an 8.5 out of 10. It's not perfect. There's a few things I maybe would have done a little bit better, but it's still very entertaining overall, and I'm going to give it an overall grade of an A-. I thought about giving it a B+, but then I was like, nah. For me, I'm a Thor guy, so for me, I'll bump it up to an A-. I don't know. So that was my review of Thor Love and Thunder. We finally made it to the end of this series. If you guys want to see my review for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I'll make sure to put that somewhere on the screen. And tune into my channel just a few more days to watch a review of the new movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is going to be the first one in Phase 5. Can't wait to talk about it. I'm sorry that I delayed it for some time, but I was busy and some stuff went on. But I can't wait to talk about it nonetheless, and I hope you guys are excited for that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure that you hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified about my latest videos. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought. And yeah, it's been it. Peace.